In the cold darkness of space, there was a world called Valora 9, a planet of steel cities and silent skies. Its people, the Valorians, were known across the stars for one thing. They had no emotions. No love, no fear, no pain. They were logical, perfect, and deadly. Among them was Commander Aria Vex, one of the best soldiers of her time. She led fleets, conquered worlds, and followed every order without question. Her golden eyes showed no mercy, and her heart, if she ever had one, was quiet like a frozen sea. Humans, on the other hand, were seen as weak. Valorians called them the emotional disease of the galaxy. They fought with passion, with tears, with hope, things the Valorians could never understand. And yet those same emotions made humans unpredictable. Dangerous even to a perfect mind, Aria's new mission was simple. Lead a strike force to capture a hidden human outpost near the Orion Belt. Destroy their resistance once and for all. She stood on the command deck of her silver warship, staring at the blue light of the stars. "Commander," said her second officer, "the human signal has been located." "Prepare the dropships," Aria replied, her voice cold and clear. No hesitation, no emotion, just duty. But fate, or something stranger, had a different plan. As their fleet approached the human outpost, an unknown energy wave hit the ship. The lights flickered. The controls failed. "Energy surge detected," someone shouted. Before Aria could react, the warship was spinning out of control, falling toward an uncharted planet. Everything went dark. When Aria opened her eyes, she was lying on rough ground. The sky was red, filled with dust and lightning. Her armor was cracked. Her weapon was gone. Around her lay the wreckage of her ship, smoke rising, metal burning. The rest of her crew, silent. For the first time, Aria felt something she could not name. It wasn't fear. It wasn't pain. It was a strange emptiness, something moving quietly inside her chest, then a voice. "Hey, stay still. You're hurt." Aria's instincts woke instantly. She grabbed a sharp piece of metal and turned. A man stood a few meters away, hands raised. He was human, dirt-covered, tired but alive. "Don't move," Aria said sharply. "Identify yourself." The man smiled weakly. "Name's Eli. You crashed near my shelter. You're lucky I found you before the storm hit." Aria's golden eyes narrowed. "Why would a human help a Valorian?" "Because you're bleeding," he said simply. "And you'll die if I don't. No logic. No reason, just care." He stepped closer slowly, showing he had no weapon. Aria wanted to stop him. Her training screamed enemy. But when his hand touched her shoulder to check the wound, something strange happened. Her senses spiked. Her pulse quickened. Her mind, trained to be silent, whispered a question she never asked before. "Why is he doing this?" Eli guided her to a small shelter, made of stone and broken ship parts. Inside, he cleaned her wound with water from a metal flask. She didn't thank him. She didn't know how. Valorians didn't say thank you. They didn't feel gratitude. "You're from Valora 9, right?" Eli asked. "Yes," she replied coldly. "We don't talk to humans." He chuckled softly. "Guess today's an exception." Aria looked at him, confused by his tone. He was injured too, a cut on his arm, but he didn't complain. He kept talking, smiling, making small jokes she didn't understand. Why would someone joke in danger? Why would someone care about an enemy? Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, silence grew. When Eli finally rested, Aria sat near the fire he had built. Flames danced in her eyes, a bright alive. She remembered her home, her people, emotionless, cold, perfect. And then she looked at him again. He was sleeping, breathing softly. His face looked peaceful. Something inside her chest tightened again, strange and new. She touched her heart. The beat felt stronger, faster. Is this what humans call emotion? She thought. Her training said emotions were weakness. Her mind said kill him now before he becomes a threat. But her hand refused to move. That night she couldn't sleep. Every sound outside the shelter felt too loud, too real. And every time she looked at Eli, she felt that strange pull, the one her mind couldn't explain. In the distance, her broken ship's beacon blinked weakly. Soon her people would come for her. And when they did, they'd find this human and end him. That was the law. Yet Aria wasn't sure anymore what was right or wrong. The logic that once guided her now felt incomplete. She didn't understand it. She only knew she didn't want him to die. As she sat there watching the humans sleep, one quiet thought crossed her mind. Why do I care? For a Valorian, that question was forbidden. For Arya, it was the beginning of everything. The storm outside grew stronger, shaking the shelter. Lightning lit the sky, and in its flash, her golden eyes reflected something they never had before, a spark of emotion, a spark that could change two worlds forever. The storm passed after long hours of thunder and red lightning. When the first light of dawn touched the sky, Arya was still awake. Eli slept beside the dying fire, his jacket over her shoulders to keep her warm. No one had ever done that for her before. She looked at him and whispered to herself, "Humans are strange." Her voice carried both confusion and curiosity. When Eli woke, he smiled as if nothing terrible had happened. "Morning," he said, rubbing his eyes. "You look better." Arya didn't answer. She was studying the scanner on her wrist. The signal from her ship was weak but alive. She could call her people, but the message would also tell them a human was here. And humans were enemies. Eli noticed her silence. "You're trying to contact someone?" "Yes, my fleet." He frowned slightly. "They'll kill me if they find me, won't they?" Arya didn't reply. That was answer enough. For the next few days they worked together to survive. The planet was full of dangers, acid rain, wild creatures, and shifting magnetic storms. Eli showed her how to build stronger walls from crashed metal plates. Arya helped him repair his old scanner to find clean water. He talked a lot. She mostly listened. He told stories about Earth, about oceans that smelled like salt, cities filled with lights, and music that made people cry. Arya couldn't understand why sound would make someone cry. Humans were strange creatures, ruled by feelings that made no logical sense, yet she liked listening. Sometimes she caught herself smiling when he spoke, not because she understood, but because his voice sounded warm. It was a sound she didn't want to stop hearing. One night as they sat near the fire, Eli asked, "Do Valorians ever feel anything? Happiness? Sadness?" Arya looked at the flames. "No, our emotions were removed long ago. They are unnecessary distractions." Eli shook his head. "That's not living, that's just existing." "Living and existing are the same," she said flatly. He laughed softly. "Not for us," he pointed at his chest. "Feeling pain means I care. Feeling fear means I want to protect. Feeling love means I'm alive." Arya tilted her head. "Love? Yeah, the crazy thing that makes us human." She stayed silent for a moment, then asked, "Is love a weakness?" He smiled. "Sometimes. But it's the best kind of weakness." Arya didn't know why, but that sentence stayed in her mind for the rest of the night. Days passed. Eli began teaching her small human habits. How to taste food, how to rest without scanning for danger every 5 seconds, how to watch the stars and imagine stories inside them. Arya, in return, taught him how to use her alien tech. She showed him her plasma blade, and how the Valorian ships could fold light itself to travel faster than thought. When he touched the weapon, his hand brushed hers by accident. A spark ran through her body, strong, electric, confusing. She pulled her hand back immediately. "What was that?" he asked. "Static," she lied quickly, but deep inside she knew it was something else. That night she couldn't sleep again. She looked at him across the small fire, his face peaceful, the faint scars on his hands glowing in the light. She wondered what it would feel like to care about someone like that. Her mind tried to stop the thought. Emotions are forbidden, she reminded herself. Still, her heart refused to listen. The next morning, disaster came. They were searching for power cells among the crashed parts when a huge roar shook the ground. A creature, half metal, half bone, crawled from the shadows. Its claws were like knives and its mouth glowed with acid. Eli shouted, "Run!" But Arya didn't run. She pulled out her plasma blade and attacked. The creature struck her hard, throwing her against a rock. Her armor cracked again. Before it could finish her, Eli jumped forward, firing a weak energy pistol and his only weapon. It wasn't enough to kill the beast, but it distracted it long enough for Arya to rise. She slashed, cutting deep into the creature's chest. It fell, screaming, before collapsing into silence. When Arya turned, Eli was on the ground, blood on his side. He had taken the hit meant for her. "Why did you do that?" she cried. He smiled painfully. "Because you would have done the same," her voice broke. No, I wouldn't, I can't. He looked at her eyes, golden, trembling. Maybe you already have. Arya pressed her hands against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Her heart raced so fast it felt like it would break her chest. Her senses went wild. Her armor couldn't explain it. She didn't care. She just wanted him to live. Stay with me, she said softly. He tried to speak, but his eyes closed. For a moment, everything was quiet except the storm in her heart. She screamed his name, a sound no Valorian had ever made before. Not out of anger, out of fear. Then something impossible happened. Her armor glowed, reacting to her emotions. It pulsed with energy, scanning Eli's body, trying to stabilize him, and inside her head a warning flashed. Emotion detected. System corruption in progress. She ignored it. She kept holding him, tears, real tears, running down her face for the first time in her life. Hours later, Eli was still alive, breathing weakly. Arya sat beside him, silent, staring at the stars through the broken roof. She didn't understand what was happening to her. Her heart hurt when she looked at him, but the pain felt right. She touched the scar on her chest where the armor had glowed and whispered, "This is not logic. This is something else." Then, far in the distance, her wrist communicator beeped, a Valorian signal. Her people were coming, and they would destroy any human they found. She looked at Eli, still unconscious, and said softly, "I won't let them have you." The Valorian signal grew stronger each hour. Somewhere beyond the clouds, her people were searching, their scanners sweeping every inch of the planet. Arya knew it was only a matter of time before they found her. She looked at Eli, still weak but breathing. His wounds were healing slowly, thanks to the strange reaction her armor had caused. But if the Valorians saw him, they would kill him without hesitation. Arya had followed every order her whole life. Now for the first time she wanted to break one. When Eli finally woke, he smiled weakly. "You stayed," he whispered. "Of course," she said. He chuckled. "I didn't think warriors like you cared." Arya looked away. "We don't. At least, we're not supposed to." He sat up slowly, pain in his eyes. "Then why do you sound sad?" She didn't answer. She didn't know how. That night, while Eli slept, Arya connected her wrist device to her helmet. She searched for data on the Valorian emotion block, something she had never questioned before. The files were locked, but she was a commander. She forced the code open. The truth made her stop breathing. Long ago, Valorian scientists had removed emotional centers from their species using implants. Not because emotions were weak, but because once they had felt too much. Love, grief, jealousy. Emotions had driven them to endless wars. So they decided to live without them. Forever. But the records said one more thing. Each Valorian still had emotions inside. They were only locked behind a neural barrier, a wall inside their brain. And now, somehow, Eli had broken that wall inside her. When he woke, she told him, "I found something. About my people. About me." He listened, confused but patient. "Your emotions were taken away?" "Yes, but they're still there. I can feel them now." "I don't understand how." He smiled softly. "Maybe you never needed to understand them. You just needed someone to remind you." Arya stared at him for a long moment. "I don't know what this feeling is, but when you're hurt, I feel pain. When you smile, I feel something warm." He reached out, his fingers brushing hers. "That's emotion. That's connection." Her hand didn't move away this time. Instead, she let his warmth stay. Hours later, alarms echoed from her wrist communicator. Valorian drones were entering the planet's atmosphere. Her people were almost here. Eli stood up quickly. "You have to go." "If they find you with me—" "No," she interrupted. "They'll kill you. That's why you need to hide." "I'm not hiding," she said firmly. For the first time, her voice carried emotion. Real emotion. Fear, anger, care. She grabbed her plasma blade and disconnected the communicator. But it was too late. The ship's wreck had already sent her coordinates. "They're coming," she said quietly. "And they will destroy everything." They spent the next few hours preparing. Eli helped her set up barriers using pieces of wreckage. Arya tried to mask their energy signatures, but she knew it wouldn't hold long. Between tasks, they talked. Eli asked, "What will they do if they see you feeling?" "They will erase me," she said. "Valorians believe emotion is a disease. I have become infected." He laughed sadly. "Then I guess I'm the virus?" She looked at him seriously. "Then you're the only one worth catching." He smiled, and for a moment she smiled too. As night fell, Arya sat outside the shelter staring at the stars. She thought about her past. The missions, the orders, the cold silence of Valora 9. None of it mattered anymore. All she could think about was the human sleeping a few feet away, the one who made her heart feel alive. In her helmet's reflection, she saw her own face. Tired, cracked, but no longer empty. For the first time she saw tears again, and she didn't wipe them away. At dawn, the sound of engines filled the sky. Dark shapes appeared through the red clouds. Valorian drones scanning the ground. Eli ran to her. "They found us." Arya nodded, gripping her blade. "Go to the cave behind the ridge. Stay there until I come." "I'm not leaving you." "Yes, you are," she said sharply, though her eyes softened. "If they take me, I can survive." "You can't." He hesitated, then stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Arya, you don't have to fight them alone." She looked at him, really looked, and whispered, "I've never been alone since I met you." Before he could reply, she kissed his forehead gently, a gesture she had seen humans do. Then she turned and walked toward the rising light of the Valorian ships. When the first drone landed, Arya stood tall, armor glowing faintly from the emotional energy within her. Her own people would see her as broken, corrupted, dangerous. But she didn't care anymore. Inside her chest, something stronger than logic had awakened, something worth fighting for. The drone's speakers crackled with a cold voice. "Commander Arya Vex, you are ordered to surrender for emotional contamination." Arya raised her plasma blade. Her golden eyes burned with fire. "I am not contaminated," she said softly. "I'm finally alive." And as she charged forward, lightning cracked across the sky, marking the beginning of a war she never meant to start, a war between logic and love. The sky burned red as the Valorian ships descended. Their engines screamed like thunder. Dust rose across the valley where Arya stood, alone, glowing faintly in the stormlight. Her golden eyes were calm, but inside her, emotion blazed like fire. Behind her, Eli watched from the cave. He wanted to run to her, but she had locked the entrance from the outside. All he could do was whisper, "Please come back." 3 silver drones landed first, scanning the ground with blue lights. Their voices were cold, mechanical. "Commander Arya Vex, you are ordered to deactivate your weapon and kneel." She didn't move. Her plasma blade hummed softly, alive in her hand. A second voice came from above, her superior officer, General Corran. His ship hovered like a black shadow. "Arya, this is your final warning," he said. "You are infected with human emotion. Return for cleansing." Arya raised her head. "Emotions are not a disease." "Then you are already lost," Corran replied. The ground exploded as the drones fired. Arya moved faster than light, spinning, slashing, her blade cutting through metal. One drone fell, then another, burning into dust. But more ships were landing, hundreds of them. She couldn't win. She knew that. Still, she fought, not for victory, but for him. Inside the cave, Eli saw the sky flash with light and fire. He couldn't stay hidden anymore. He grabbed Arya's broken blaster and ran into the storm. When he reached the battlefield, the air was thick with smoke and burning metal. "Arya!" he shouted. She turned and her armor cracked, her shoulder bleeding blue light. "What are you doing here?" she yelled. "I told you," he said. "You're not fighting alone." Before she could stop him, he fired at one of the drones chasing her. The blast hit its core and it fell. She felt pride and fear. Humans shouldn't fight Valorians. They were too fragile. But Eli didn't care. "Run, Eli!" she cried. "They will kill you." "Then they'll have to catch me first." For a moment he sounded fearless, more fearless than any soldier she'd ever met. General Corran's voice roared through the air again. "So it's true," he said coldly. "You protect a human." Arya faced his ship. "He saved me. He taught me what it means to feel." Corran's reply was sharp. "Feelings are chaos. You have betrayed our kind." Arya looked up at the black ship and shouted, "No, I've set us free." The ship opened fire. Beams of white energy struck the ground, sending shockwaves across the valley. Arya grabbed Eli and shielded him with her armor. The blast threw them both against the rocks. When she opened her eyes, the world was a blur of sound and dust. Eli was lying beside her, hurt again, but alive. She touched his face gently. "I can't protect you if I stay." He grabbed her hand weakly. Then don't protect me. Fight for me. Something inside her broke, the last chain of logic holding her back. Her armor responded, glowing brighter than ever before. Energy surged through her, pure and unstable. She stood, fire around her. Her eyes burned gold. Even the Valorian soldiers hesitated. "Commander," Corrin warned, "your energy core will overload." She smiled faintly. "Good," she raised her hands. The energy burst out, forming a shield around Eli. The air shook. Lightning danced through the clouds. Every Valorian weapon aimed at her, but Arya didn't stop. She felt every heartbeat, and hers and his blending together. And in that heartbeat she knew what love truly was. Not weakness, but power. She turned toward the approaching army. "For the first time in my life," she whispered, "I'm fighting for something real." Then she charged. The light that came from her armor blinded the sky. Explosions echoed for miles. Valorian ships lost control, spinning and crashing. Her power spread like a storm, unstoppable, burning with emotion. Eli screamed her name, but she couldn't hear him anymore. All she heard was the sound of her own heart, fading but full. When the light finally faded, the battlefield was silent. The Valorian ships retreated into the clouds, their systems damaged. Smoke covered the valley. Eli crawled from behind the rocks, coughing. He searched for her through the haze. "Arya!" he called again and again. Then he saw her, lying among the ruins, armor cracked open, her eyes dim but peaceful. He ran to her and held her close. "You did it," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "Did I win? You saved us." Her voice was soft, almost gone. "No. We saved each other." Her hand reached up, touching his face one last time. "Now I know what love feels like." And with those words, her golden eyes closed. Eli held her in his arms as the red sky turned quiet. For a long time he didn't move. He just sat there, a human and a Valorian, in the middle of a silent war zone that had finally found peace. In the distance, the Valorian fleet retreated completely. They didn't destroy the planet. They didn't send another wave, because in their data stream they had captured something impossible, a Valorian showing emotion. It spread across their systems like a spark of light in endless darkness. Silence covered the battlefield. The red storm had faded. Ash floated in the air like snow. Eli sat beside Arya's still body, the glow from her armor slowly fading into darkness. The fire in her eyes was gone, but her face looked peaceful, almost human. He didn't cry at first. He just held her hand, whispering her name over and over. "Arya, wake up. Please." But she didn't move. The woman who had been born without emotion had died for it. Hours passed before Eli finally stood. He couldn't bury her. Her body wasn't just flesh and bone. Her armor had become part of her, fused with light, so he built a small monument using pieces of her broken ship. He placed her sword in the ground, its blade pointing toward the sky. Above it, he left her insignia, the mark of a Valorian commander. Then he spoke softly. "You taught me that love isn't weakness. It's the reason we fight to live." He paused, his voice shaking. "And maybe one day your people will feel it too." He turned on her communicator one last time, not to call for help, but to send a message. Not just words, her final memory. Eli connected her device to his scanner. Her armor had recorded everything, her fight, her words, even her heartbeat. He pressed send, transmitting it into the stars. The message spread across the galaxy, bouncing through every Valorian relay network. Within hours, millions of Valorians received the impossible signal, a recording of one of their own of feeling. At first, they tried to delete it, but emotion can't be erased. It found its way into their minds, a memory, a spark. And once you've seen light, you can't pretend darkness is enough. On Valora 9, the High Council gathered. They watched the recording of Arya's last moments, her words before the final battle. "Emotions are not a disease. They are what make us alive." For the first time in centuries, silence filled the council chamber. And for the first time in history, one of them cried. Weeks later, on the ruined planet, Eli still lived near the wreck. He had repaired his shelter, but the loneliness felt heavy. Every night he looked at the stars, wondering if her people had understood her sacrifice. Then one night his scanner beeped. A new signal. He followed it to the crash site where her monument stood. There, glowing faintly on her sword, was a small light, a Valorian message crystal. Eli picked it up and played it. A hologram appeared, Arya's face, calm and radiant. "Eli," her voice said, soft and clear, "if you're hearing this, then I'm gone. But know this, what we shared wasn't an accident. It was evolution. You showed me what it means to live, to feel, to love. I hope my people learn from it, and I hope you never forget me." Her image smiled, then it faded back into light. Eli fell to his knees, tears filling his eyes, not of sadness but of peace. He whispered, "I'll never forget you." Years passed. The story of Arya Vex spread across human and Valorian worlds alike. Some called her a traitor, others called her a legend. But to those who understood, she was something more, a bridge between two hearts that were never meant to meet. Valorian society began to change slowly. Scientists started unlocking the emotional barriers in newborns. They learned that emotions didn't destroy them. They made them stronger, wiser, more alive. And it all began with one soldier who dared to feel. Far away, on a new Valorian colony, a little girl played among the metal gardens. Her eyes were golden, glowing faintly in the sunlight. When she laughed, the sound was warm, like music. Her mother called from a distance, "Come inside, Lyra." But the girl didn't move. She was looking at the stars, smiling softly. "Mom," she asked, "do humans really exist?" Her mother laughed. "Yes, they do. Why do you ask?" Lyra shrugged. "I don't know. I just feel like someone out there loves us." Her mother smiled and took her hand. "Maybe you're right." As the night fell, Lyra looked up once more at the sky. Among the stars, one shone brighter than the rest, a golden light that flickered gently as if watching over her. She whispered, "Good night, whoever you are." And far across the galaxy, a small fragment of Arya's armor drifted through space, still glowing with the last trace of her energy. Inside it, her voice echoed softly. The same message that changed the universe. Sometimes love doesn't need a heart. It just needs a reason to exist. She thought love was impossible until she met a human. And in that impossible love, the stars themselves learned to feel. Her